Yeah, please start.
Thank you, Shabana, and thank you, Maven. Uh, so I'm here again, and today, the subject or the area which one thought about to kind of deliberate upon under consciously positive was something which is very contemporary. Uh, it's like a de facto, you know, basis, and it's been talked, spoken about from many years, decades and decades. Yet it's a subject which is today a prime focus, right from not only in India, right from the PMO office to even United Nations. So that's where one thought about this. Yes, there are certain, uh, one thought, when one was thinking about this subject about environment and development, which we talk about today a lot. So these are the two very contemporary or trendy subjects, right? We all talk about environment, right? From the so-called very highly successful, so-called possibly literate, or I would probably term it as having many degrees, national, international, sitting in very powerful, prestigious positions, nationally, internationally. Uh, in power, having wealth, having status. So all of this segment, we talk about environment a lot in different capacities. Many of them have their own trusts, foundations to talk about and address this. Then there's another subject is development, right? So again, that's something which one and all talk about, right? So I'm talking about those who have a voice, right? One and all means there is a segment which has no voice, right? And in that segment, one is the so-called illiterate and poor and downtrodden. But then there's another segment which is the middle class, right? Which is the real middle class, which is somewhere has done its education. Now, to what extent that literacy and education has happened is for everybody to decide, but has no voice. So, all we talk about environment and development. So I thought that environment and development, when we when one was looking at an overall perspective, and a lot of things are happening. I'm also associated with a lot of social development organizations by individuals and associations and NGOs. Uh, Even at a corporate level, at a CSR end, there's a lot of things happening. So I thought in this gamut, it is important to bring in ethos. And so I said ethos, environment, and development, because one felt that environment or development, there's a very strong connection with ethos. And it so happened that when one started kind of putting in, reading about a lot of stuff into it, I just came across, the UN Rio de Janeiro summit, which was very famous as the Earth Summit. Now, in that, this was in 1992, and it was the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, called UNCED. And it was also called the Rio Earth Summit. Now, in this, there was a very important point which I came across, and it was the Agenda 21, the Rio Declaration. And, in this, the Agenda 21 is about the interconnectedness of social, economic, and environmental factors, and the need for integrated approach to sustainable development. Now, sustainability is another so-called trendy word nowadays, right? Every other organization, every other people in places in power talking about this sustainable development. So I said, yeah, it's connecting. It's also this Agenda 21 also is saying that there's a very strong interconnectedness of socio-economic can be interchanged with development, right? So socio-economic and environmental factors. So this is how one thought about bringing this up. Now, I'm not going to again touch upon what is happening and the facts and figures about the efforts being done in the environmental space or in the development space, be it in the India context or be it in the global context, right? What one is here to deliberate upon is that let's take development, let's take the economic parameters, because that's a very key parameter for the survival of human beings, right? Now, when we say development, we say economic development, growth, and uh, you know betterment of the society at large. We see the heads of states, we see the heads of organizations, companies, we see the heads of powerful institutions within India and globally. I'm talking about a lot of this has happened and that has happened. Like in India, we hear the infrastructure. There's a huge focus on infrastructure by the current government, right? And the typical context given to that is that look at the highways, look at the roads, uh, look at the kind of companies growing, mushrooming. We have done this. We have got smart cities, uh, metros. So much of road development has happened. So much of global investment is coming. Uh, so we talk about a lot of this, right? Uh, and how it is impacting, and there's a huge effort being made to change the entire, hemisphere of uh, be it the basic level of per capita income for people, and also how it is kind of bringing more employment to people. How we had heard about earlier the green revolution, then there was also the white revolution. However, today in agriculture, which is, as per me, my opinion, I think India is an agrarian economy and it should stick to that. But look at the ground reality of the agriculture, the farmers, the entire green ecosystem. There are many reports, there are many studies, there are a handful of, uh, you know, there are a handful of experts who are straight enough to talk about the reality, but very handful of them. Now, I'm not here to do the tong tong of the goodness, because that's happening and we can read about it a lot everywhere in the mainline media. However, if you see, the farmers are in a pathetic position. I'm talking about the majority, right? 80%. There might be 20% where they're doing pretty well, but I'm talking about the majority. There is consistent suicides, hue and cry about not getting the right price, how the entire cultivation in the name of better yield per hectare, how the influence of toxic pesticides have been increased on the ground to give better yield. Now, what are the repercussions of that? Whether it is at the economic level of the people at the from the lower end of the pyramid, or the people who are actually into it, lands have been taken away. They are being converted into cement forests. If you go towards the highways anywhere in India, in the name of building this roads, you can see all the farmland being converted into buildings. It's typically one word: cement forests. In many places, if you go even in the hilly areas, I was surprised. I was in the belt of Nainital and beyond, and literally those trees on the hill areas were being burned, literally, so that the soil can be later on tested and proved in paper that it is good, it is not good for agriculture work. And then it's used for again converting them into concrete jungles. The repercussions of that, when you see the increase in the temperatures, the uncertain, the variations which we experience, the repercussions on the crops, the landslides, we have seen huge, just now, just 2 3 days back, one came across the news that huge landslide happened in Chamoli. I'm not very correct on the area, but the entire the tourist, the cars which were going, the entire tree fell, and 7 of the tourists lost their lives. Now, yes, we cry and we are worried about losing about the lives, but have we really thought about what are we doing with the environment? This tunnel is happening, and then I was hearing in the news that there is a tunnel which is being blasted to make the trip from Joshi Mutt to X place very accessible. Now, do we really think, what is this development happening? Or we talk about connected to economic development. The tourists will increase, so the people will get very good labor. They will get their livelihoods. We have started this. We heard the minister saying that even to reach the Lord Shiva's place, there is a direct helicopter service being commissioned. The other day I was also reading somewhere on a corporate platform, on LinkedIn, that a very senior corporate guy is talking, that please, guys, the river Ganges does not need these wine bottles and garbage over here. Please do not come to our hilly regions. This mother Ganges doesn't need that. Please stay in your house in the AC and drink and do loitering as much as you want. So when we talk about livelihood, tourism will increase. Is this the kind of tourism? And before we reach to that, my question over here is that, were these places for sadhana, for experiencing that silence and that peace, and experience that that yogic approach, or it is all about doing night parties and jumping and doing high music in these calm and quiet places. I went to Leh and Ladakh and I saw that again. I was in a group and I, in the night, in that calm and quiet place, there were dozens and dozens of bottles. I don't know from how they supply, and it was in height. I'm talking about the height. Mm. And whole night, all this hangama happened in the midst of silence and peace. Where does this garbage go? And are we going to these places for that? Is it a place for getting facilities that, okay, the helicopter will land me there and then I will like a celebrity go there and sit over there and I'll get some vibrations and I'll get nirvana. So this we talk about, the in the agriculture space, farmers will get better yield. Now what are farmers getting? We still are running to get uh, potatoes and onions at lesser price, but we are ready to pay for a packet which would not give us even whatever, and pay 25, 30 rupees, and then that packet is thrown as a garbage, and that's plastic. But we are after the vegetable vendors to stop giving packets. But are we after these multinationals to stop this packet production? No. So there are NGOs, there's a huge funding coming to address this garbage pilferage which is going into the environment, which is going to the beaches. Huge funding for that. Then there is a huge funding which is going for the startups, which are every day using tons and tons of plastics and cartons to supply you home delivery at your home. So now you see how dichotically these things are working. At one end, we are giving funds to the NGOs, and there's a lot of effort by people to get away from this garbage, whether it is in the land area or whether it is in the ocean area or in the hills area. And at the other end, there's a huge money being put in into startups which are promoting travel at 2 days trip, 5 days trip at throwaway prices, and then you go and dump the entire garbage over there. So we are converting all these places into places of Goa beach. You can't make every place a Goa beach. Goa is different, Banaras is different. But what has happened at Banaras? We are talking about good, very good, great things happen. But I belong to Banaras. What has happened to Banaras? It's sad. Today, the Ganga Ghat is become dirty because you have put concrete steps, and the dirt every day over there is being all, for making it good for the authorities. And when these celebrities and the prime minister goes, immediately all that rubbish and dirt is thrown away into the Ganges, and people are sitting in the evening as if it is a Goa beach. It was not supposed to be Goa beach, sorry. The other day I was hearing on in the news only that I went to the Vishwanath temple after the corridor and the so-called corridor has happened. Now, one, it has become very slippery, so you can fall anytime. I went during this time last year, so it was rainy season, August. Now I'm hearing that because of the summers, now on that carpets are being spread so that people don't feel heat, and there is a sprinkling of water. Now, are we going to a five-star restaurant? We can't just blindly, one, we want to wear Mark Spencer also, and we want to get the best of the Sattvic world. Just like nowadays, we have a lot of gurus who are IIT pass outs, right? So, what is this happening? We talk about economic, right, with development. In Ayodhya, there was a tweet that a cup of tea, not in a cafe, not in a big restaurant, but on a place which was midway between a roadside dhaba and a cafe. The tea was served for 250 rupees. Is this what is the development and growth we are looking for? Is this growth an economic benefit? Because see, the people who are living in 5 stars and surviving on 5 stars, they will survive any which way. But how much, what is the percentage of that? So this was the development. I've spoken about the impact on nature. uh, uh, Look at the consumption of ACs today. A so-called, I doubt if they are middle class, they have 5 cars, they have at least 10 to 12 or 15 ACs in the house, and on an average 4 to 5 ACs are running, and there are 5 cars to cater to 3 people in the house. Possibly in one car their pet goes out. So what are we adding to the environment? Is it just by talking in conferences and doing research reports and getting awarded and recognized for that and passing out big policies, this is going to be addressed? If so, then I doubt the last 40, 50 years there should have been a marked change in the situation on ground. And all the research reports would have reflected that, no matter how much you fudge. So what's this? And relating to economic. Now, yesterday only there was a news going on, and we all know India is the largest exporter of crude oils. They were talking about the countries because US is announcing some tariffs. So it was in that context. And can we imagine the amount of forex which we are really losing on it? We talk about so-called these celebrated startups. Now, what are these startups doing? They are just producing runners on bikes to deliver you stuff. What is being, one, you are not adding to the value of manpower there. You're not giving him any value to raise that person as a human being. Nothing like that. You're just making him a coolie. And that too, coolie walks on the foot. You are making that spend the forex on petrol and diesel, which is the run of our treasures of our country. Will that economically benefit India and its people? The 80%. I'm not talking about the 20% HNIs. And irony is that these are the HNIs sitting in places of power and position who are invited to committees, whether it is Niti Aayog or it is any other Aayog. And in the conferences, to design and plan policies for the segment which they have never lived and never understood. 4 days back, I was in a conference which was on Move for Earth. So it was on environment, agriculture, how to make agriculture production toxic free because it is making people, cancer is rising, right? So it was on all that. And I'm giving you a real life example. Now, there was one session in which there was a workshop. So we were asked to get case studies. And in my group, there was case study on West Bengal district called Nadia, where there were features given. That they have a very good rainfall, rice production is the key thing, blah blah blah. Now, when things were being written down, there's a young girl with with speaking English in the most accented manner, all padicured, representing a international funding organization. And then it says, what will be the outcome? Suppose we do this, we get government this policy to fund the farmers to raise the rice production, blah blah blah, and raise the water table. It says, I think it should be, we should expect an outcome of 50% rise in the production. Suddenly, the guy who was there on the ground in that village and was anchoring the table, he says, Madam, 50%? It's too high to expect. You can expect 10%, 15%, at the most 20% increase in the production, but not 50%. Yeah, 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 yeah. So now these are the kind of, with due respect to everybody, are sitting and working out the solution papers, the white papers, the research papers, and they are finally finding the pathway to the government, to the secretaries, and actions and policies and funding is flowing. Where is it flowing? That is is good not to elaborate upon. So I've just kind of referred about the economic and development because often this discussion comes in that it's very important because for the economic betterment of everybody. Now, if it is very important, then why is this situation worsening? Now, the third aspect, which is the socio ethos. So I've kind of referred to all of these things and touched it. Now, what is ethos? If we talk about what is ethos? So ethos, if we talk about, this is basically ethos refers to the the uh, the the belief, the idea, the attitude, the character, the moral nature, the sentiments, the values, the principles, the that 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 are centered around an individual, a group, or say an institution, and yes, beyond institution and organization, a country. Now, this all is very strongly, this ethos is a very important part. Actually, for me, I think this is the core, because today the ethos is only, it's really gone for a toss. Because had the ethos been there, strong, the principles, the values, the culture, what we call in Hindi, the sanskars, they don't come by getting Harvard degrees. They don't come by blindly following the West. So, how much are we for self investing on ourselves? That what is my ethics? What are my values? What are my principles I'm going to live on? India as a country was very rich in that, right? But where have they gone today? Where you today have leaders of the institutions at government level, at corporate level, at individual house level, if you see what's happening, do you see the reflection of values, principles, and ethics there? Because if I am driven by values, by principles, by ethics, by care for humanity, not just blabbering around that, I open my mic, I open a YouTube channel, and I give gyan, not that, but if I'm really driven by that, will I be not conscious about how many ACs I'm using and why I'm using? How many cars are there and why I'm having so much? Just because God has blessed me to create that wealth, but the creation of wealth is not for greed. The intent has to be there, right? It has to be for a larger purpose, not to make an entila of 100 floors and God knows do what. I mean, if I talk about the Antilla owner, uh, just if we take it back to his father, Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, and reflect his lifestyle. What was his lifestyle? And reflect the lifestyle of the generation after that. This shows the difference. How much you have stuck on to your simple core ways of living. Because if we are driven by that, this kind of erratic conduct, whether to run business, whether to run my service at a particular organization or at an institution, will be driven by certain very strong morals, and that will restrict and make me conscious enough towards these various segments. We at the first level, at a policy level, try to attack the people who are the most vulnerable. In the name of plastics, we'll immediately jump to the vendors, the vegetable guy who's possibly earning 1,000, 2,000 rupees per day. But we are not putting an action on the big FMCG companies, where today every food item is being sold in a plastic packet. We are buying organic food. Organic it was the thing at back end, right? 100 years back, that's the way it was. But slowly and steadily, we do modernize, we do use technology. But then again, the balance is very important. Like the evil and the good, both are here, right? The balance has to be there, right? For that, the awareness has to be there. So, yes, we have to increase the yield. But what way? What course? Is it at the course of inculcating, toxic things which later on harm the health? And now again, we are getting back to no organic production. And in that name, we are just making the product so expensive that it is beyond the affordability of the common man in the real sense. I'm not talking about the common and the middle man, which is no longer the middle class and a common man. So, and then we are sitting and debating about these things in the conferences. Very important thing said. This is the same thing said by in this conference by a very uh, uh, senior official from Hyderabad, and he's doing a lot of work in agriculture and farmers. And he said, look here, everybody is giving direction to the farmers, but nobody is asking the farmer. He is the most knowledgeable. Otherwise, also, you know, but everybody is going there to guide that person. And now the more smart thing is happening is now the corporate world has realized that this rural segment has not been converted into the mad uh, ecosystem which they have done in all the metros and world over. So now they are reaching out to the rural segment. So it's insurance policy, all policies are being sold to them. All kinds of things are being sold to them. So that whatever is left, that also goes for good. And these people milk the stuff and make their own billions and millions. Today, most of the people in the entertainment sector have their own farms and they are getting their own produce from their own farms. Many of the ministers have come in the public platform, like Mr. Nitin Gadkari. He has his own farm and he gets his own product. And the rest country has been converted into roads and highways. So where will the production come from? By putting pesticides and raising the yield, and then selling insurance policies to the people, because now you are going to have health problem. So now you buy health policies. So this is the entire caucus and the entire web which has happened. So I just felt it's very important to talk about this because the socio ethos is very important. Somewhere that's really kicked down somewhere into the corner in the darkness, and it's of the least relevance today for anybody. I mean, in the general business today, when people are being hired, it's all about how much you are creating the noise on social media, how much you are uh, blabbering about your certificates and degrees and conferences and awards you have got, how many NGOs and how much have change in the world you have done. But then what's happening in the ground, on the ground, if so much of change has happened? How many Tatas and how many Godreges and how many Birlas have happened in the last 30 years? What we have got today, the companies, they come, they suddenly, after they are celebrated as unicorns, and then it is announced that they have run into huge losses. Case in example is Baiju. Case in example is Paytm. Case in example are many others. But you see the personal worth of that founder and co-founder, which possibly is a wife or someone else, their personal wealth is rising. And then the CSR policies are there. So you invest in CSR and you say, no, I'm doing great work for the society. So we have turned the Rishikeshas of the world and Himalayas of the world into tourist spots where you go, you do the same hangama, you do the same party nights. You have huge Israeli outfits who have got into the Himachal area, and I'm told that they are organizing fests for 3 to 5 days, and there is a huge rampant use of drugs over there. Yes, then you say, oh, this is a good economic development. People are getting money, right? So this is the development. This is the economic empowerment which is happening. And where is the ethos, the social ethos? Everybody is today turning into a guru, into a preacher, and claiming to change lives, claiming to make you manifest. God knows, Lord Brahma will stand here only itself. And but when you peep inside, their own lives are completely gone. And some of them their cases have come into the public. A very well celebrated name which is equally in the dark is Sri Sadguru. So And then there's a huge line, you have cleared IITs, you have got some international degrees, and suddenly you are there as a preacher, and there's a big line of these kind of profiles. So, as teachers, as trainers and mentors, we have to be very conscious about what we are doing and why we are doing, what is our intent, what's our basic ethos, and are we sticking on to that? So just by, small steps at an individual level, it's not necessary that I may not be sitting on a huge chair of power of position. I may not be a millionaire billionaire. Okay, fine, no problem. But then what is the way to address it? The ways are there. It's very simple. First, strengthen your values and principles. Do you have any ethical parameter for yourself, or it is anything at any cost? How much resources I'm wasting? It's as simple as throwing a plastic on the road, or how much consumption I'm doing of plastic products at an individual level. I can't, sow 50,000 trees. I don't have a farm. Good, no problem. But can I even water a one bottle to just the roadside plants, which are not in my house, which are not in my compound? And I'm not going to get anything from it. But can I do that selflessly? Because when the crisis comes, then we run, oh, the papaya leaves are very good, please get that papaya leaves, we have to eat. Oh, the X leaves are very important, I want that X leaves. Yes, the people who have money, the HNIs, can buy that anytime. Good, they can buy that anytime. But then what about the rest? So, for I have a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of disturbance, and I get onto a guru or somebody, and that person changes gets me, God knows, some kind of a zone the people go into, and then their life is changed all of a sudden. Yes, if your life is changed and you have changed for good, then is there a change you have seen on ground for yourself, and have you done that? So, uh, we can do that in a small bit also, so this is where I thought this is the stuff. But having said that, small steps which we can take, if we are in places of power, position, money we have, can we make those small steps to recognize, give a chance to people who have strong ethos and they are walking that path wherever we get the opportunity? Can we cultivate in ourselves the ability, the character is a very important thing. Earlier day, I think whatever I read and I've read, the characters were very strong. They had very strong characters, and it's nothing to relate with ego. See, there's a very thin line between being ego, having a strong correct character. This very very thin line, and that's where I guess this being consciously positive, or being aware about yourself, all plays a role. Having the character to really, if you are in a place of power and position, stand up to the rights and the wrongs, give the opportunity to right people, get out of your zone of insecurity, do the little bit which you can do at an individual level. Even if you don't get awards, you don't get recognition, you don't get laurels. So, there's a huge, there are many other segments. I mean, I've not touched upon the social media aspect about it, but That's another strong space, but kind of broadly the key things which may, because tourism, agriculture, the corporate, the government corporate segment, these are the very important segments. And I just felt that, it's all governed in that space. So it was important to pick up and highlight the areas, because see, the points which one has elaborated today, we don't find people talking in such straight words these things, because yes, we are somewhere compelled by our by our jobs, by our economic uh, conditions, by our job position, power. So fortunately for me, those things don't stand, So I just thought to bring these up there. And if we can make those small steps, tomorrow when there is a discussion happening on agriculture, on improving the things at the ground level, have a thought on these lines. We are talking about organic food, but don't we think that organic was the our old origin of India? Now we are getting onto the West, and in the name of startups, business was happening earlier also. Why this startup eco is happening? Just because in the West this started. So we have to understand what as India our ethos was. Was it basically the ethos was materialism, consumerism, or it was something else? And if that was the case, then why don't we get back to our roots and follow that path? I think it helped us sustain all the challenges which came, and it will help us sustain. But if we are following this path, you can see how it's falling apart. Many things which we did not hear happening in India have started happening. And this is in spite of the so called people really going up there, the so called economic development of many, the middle people coming from tier two cities to going to US, and internationally, and in India also into the metros, and getting moved from the middle to the upper strata. But where has that character, where has that sanskar, where has that principles and values gone? How much are we investing about our country's foreign exchange in petrol and diesel? Do we really think about that? What is our attitude? We have the money, so we can just throw around. And at what cost? So if we do not work at an individual level, at one home, one house level, and become conscious about all these things, I really have to say nothing, And I think, this is what was quoted that couple of days back, Prime Minister has said in his address that this environment address can happen only once people talk about it within their drawing rooms, within their dining tables. Because if we will not respect and value this environment, our ethos, do we really think that we will get that value and respect in return, and we will be saved if we don't save them? We have seen a small clipping of that couple of years back when we were all within our rooms, but I think we haven't learned, we are back to our own good ways. And it's high time that we respect and value ourselves, the five elements that are within us and the five elements that's outside, and move on from this culture, this ethos of greed, consumerism, materialism, beyond any measure, beyond the levels of madness it has gone. So, with these thoughts, I kind of bring this, session of today to an end. And thank you once again. to the Maven platform and Shabana and everyone here. And if we have questions or thoughts or viewpoints, it would be great to hear that. You know,
Thank you, Shivani, and thank you for being so direct and addressing these key issues. I think our other participant may also would like to add. Rajvi.
yes.
Very well presented, and ethos is one of the ethos pathos is very good thinking. Ethos pathos, and it is, and one more I forgot to, ethos pathos and logos. Now logos is logic, ethos is ethics, pathos is principles, from my opinion. So very well presented, and we should have more of this on our Maven platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajveer. Thank you. And it was wonderful to, you know, have you say these words of encouragement. And as I said earlier, you know, this just, I would say, should encourage each one of us. It definitely impacts me. And my gratitude to you.
Thank you, Shivani. And Meena ji is saying thank you for very informative session.
Thank you, Shabana. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Maven. Thank you, Rajvi. Thank you, Meena ji.
And see you all again then